Why is a sense of safety important? Or what has safety got to do with feeling stuck? Why does Bessel van der Kolk say, the single most important issue for traumatized people is to find a sense of safety in their own bodies? Because science has shown that if you don't feel safe, you can't focus your attention beyond real or perceived dangers. And if you cannot focus your attention, you cannot learn new things. That is, you can't learn new responses to situations. As Daniel Siegel says, attention is the scalpel of neuroplasticity. And there is a physiological reason. As we pay attention, certain neuromodulators, for example, acetylcholine and norepinephrine, are released. As we focus, certain neuromodulators guide the neuroplastic changes of learning. To review, because it's a key point in trauma recovery, learning what is dangerous comes to us naturally. We are wired to remember what is dangerous. How this wiring happens is discussed a bit later. But it's common sense, based on body physiology, that if you're feeling unsafe, what grabs and holds your attention is what is making you feel unsafe. The takeaway point is that to learn new ways, or as importantly, to unlearn certain ways of responding to stimuli, we need to feel safe so that we can pay attention. So let's consider what we mean by the physiology of safety. Where does a sense of safety come from? In the late 1960s, Paul MacLean developed the idea of the triune brain, which even at the time he recognized as too simplistic owing to the interconnections among all the many parts of the brain. Yet it still proves a useful model around which to frame a discussion. Our most primitive and instinctive responses to danger come from the reptilian brain, which is the oldest part and sometimes called the lizard brain. The cerebellum, or the little brain, and the brainstem regulate the body functions that keep us alive: eating, sleeping, digesting, breathing, heart beating, and reproducing. Responses to danger driven by this part of the brain are immobilization, or the freeze response. In humans, the response can also be dissociation. We just don't feel anything in our bodies. For mammals, this instinctive response may save their lives in the immediate situation of danger, as it requires no time for thought and can numb feelings of intense pain. If you work with people, you are probably quite familiar with the second part of the triune model, the limbic system, which is the seat of emotion, motivation, and memory encoding. The word emotion is from the Latin root emovia, which means to move or to agitate. Moving is the key way in which we self-regulate. We move towards something or we move away from something. In one model, the limbic system has 4 parts. The thalamus is located above the brainstem and serves as a central relay station for many sensory and motor signals. In a properly functioning thalamus, we assess if the situation is dangerous, if it is something toward which we want to move, or if there is no threat. The only sense not first filtered through the thalamus is the sense of smell. This fact explains why smells can be such a quick and strong trauma trigger. Perhaps as you create a trauma-informed space, be aware that you have no idea what someone's smell triggers may be. In fact, sometimes they are unaware until triggered. The amygdala dominates many scientific and philosophical discussions on aggression, fear, and anxiety. Many books continue to be written on the topic. Of note to this trauma discussion is that we can process danger signals even before we have had time to think it through. Signals are sent to the amygdala to begin the fight or flight response, which happens because the hypothalamus secretes such necessary hormones as epinephrine, or adrenaline, and cortisol. These self-regulating cycles are identified as the HPA axis. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. A mouthful, but the image of the feedback loops of neuromodulators and stress hormones is worth remembering as you empower yourself and others to take control of their stress systems. I like to think of it as personalizing your stress response, using breath and movement so it works to your advantage. The takeaway point is living systems already tend toward homeostasis, the self-regulating state that living systems use to adjust to changing conditions. Getting better at stress, as Kelly McGonigal suggests in her book, The Upside of Stress, is just doing what comes naturally. If you are feeling and thinking that how the brain and the body interact is complicated, many would agree, but let's press on. Okay, a quick recap of a healthy system. First is threat assessment. Then, neuromodulators prepare us to address the threat. Threats can be from internal stimuli, which could be a physical sensation or an emotional feeling, or from external stimuli, that is, something happening outside of us. Then, in a healthy system, the stress hormone levels go back down when the danger has passed. Now on to the fourth part of this limbic model. The event is then encoded in the hippocampus. That makes sense. If something is dangerous, we need to remember it. Daniel Siegel provides a clear explanation of current ideas on memory. There are two types. One type is implicit or nonverbal memory, how a pre-verbal child encodes a memory. In this model, implicit memory can encode 4 types of memories. A body sensation, you remember your heart pounding. An emotional memory, you remember feeling delighted to see your friend. A motor memory, you remember how to do something because the memory is stored in the brain stem. It's just like riding a bike. And a perceptual memory, which is how you interpret stimuli to recognize someone's face or how something sounds or tastes. Implicit memory encoding can explain how mental constructs and feelings about what is safe or what is dangerous get encoded early in someone's life. Explicit or declarative memory is the memory of a narrative. Events are encoded within a time. In other words, that was then, this is now. Think about a photo album arranged chronologically and carefully labeled. We will circle back to what trauma can do to this photo album in the next section. The newest part of the brain, unique to mammals, is the neocortex, the seat of higher-level thinking, judgment, rational thought, empathy, and language. It's the part of the brain in which we can make plans, envision a better future, feel compassion, be thoughtful, and use language. Okay, let's go back to how a healthy brain picks up safety cues. How does the information get to the thalamus to be sorted? 3 processes have been identified. The first is interoception, or how we sense what we are both feeling and experiencing in our bodies. Do we want a snack, or do we feel angry? Does our head hurt, or do we feel sated after a good meal? The second set of cues comes from outside of us, called exteroception. Is that a loud noise, a soft touch, or a good smell? Stephen Porges has coined a third cue that drives our personal sense of safety. Neuroception describes the process by which we detect these subcortical, survival and emotional, cues of safety. You may call it a sixth sense or a gut feeling. Again, if you're thinking, aha, trauma triggers are a physiological response, you would be right. Something happens, someone has an immediate, visceral response. No thought involved. Now, as we continue to consider what a healthy brain does with all these signals coming from inside of us, from the outside, or from below the radar, let's look at a newer model of how the nervous system works. But before we explore the foundational work of Dr. Stephen Porges, give yourself a few minutes now to practice some self-care. When you are ready, tap your fingertips on your legs 4 times. The suggestion is to practice seated cat-cow 2 times. Always move and breathe in a comfortable way. As you breathe in, chin lifts, shoulders back, rock forward. As you breathe out, chin tucks, shoulders forward, rock back. On your next breath in, chin lifts, shoulders back, rock forward. As you breathe out, chin tucks, shoulders forward, rock back. When you are ready, come back to sitting tall. If you like, gently press one shoulder back, then press the other shoulder back. Longer breaths out can lower blood pressure. When you are ready, put one or both hands over your heart. Put one or both hands over your heart. The suggestion is to practice 3 breaths. As you breathe in, fingers press. As you breathe out, release the press. As you breathe in, fingers press. As you breathe out, release the press. As you breathe in, fingers press. As you breathe out, release the press. If you like, gently move the fingers on one hand or shake that hand. Then gently move the fingers on the other hand or shake that hand. Let your hands be as still as you would like them to be.